Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Freedom Coin Show. Thanks for joining us. Us four are here, Casey, Drew, Blake, and myself, talking on just some current topics that we have going on. Drew, I think you had a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. So Blake, what's your opinion on $10,000 student loan forgiveness package that a lot of these people have been receiving through executive order?
All the people who chose to take a loan out for money chose what degree to acquired said degree, and obviously the degree wasn't good enough that they could make enough money to pay it back. That's what I see.
So the
A lot
degree
of bullshit degrees
is
out
worthless
there.
because it couldn't pay for itself.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
what, $500 billion we're in the hole on this. Beautiful.
Yeah, if your degree isn't good enough to pay back what it cost, then it should be taken off of the degree program. It shouldn't be offered.
How do you feel about the 10,000 though? Do you think that's something that this country needs? That 87% is now going to be paying for what is that? 13% of the country that has student debt. Do you think the 10,000 is worth it? This forgiveness
they
program?
should just continue to pay what they owe, because it's it's like I hear all the time in different scenarios. There's people say, okay, well, what about Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so? They're a trashman or a trash woman.
Mm-hmm.
They went to college or they didn't go to college. They work 80 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't get anybody to pay for anything for them, but now you want them to pay for your failed degree that you've chosen.
Right.
Or you get so-and-so who's a school janitor, or so-and-so who never had a chance to go to college, and then now you're taking out of their paycheck to pay back these student loans for some of these stupid degree programs that they did, and
Right.
the worthless degrees that will do nothing for society. Is just I think most of it is just a money grab by the colleges. So I heard some numbers here recently of some of the major colleges of how much money they have. And it's over 40 billion,
Yeah.
30 billion,
Yeah.
42 billion.
We're just bailing out the colleges.
Yeah,
somehow.
so a college that's supposed to be not for profit for the kids, for educating. Why would they have a accumulative dollar bank account of $40 billion?
Right. I would agree.
Well,
yeah. I mean, that brings up
So if
question.
it that would say that they're either overcharging. So if they're overcharging, well, they start charging the right price, which would be less.
We got to give them 10 grand. So, and then we can just, the next kid that goes into college this semester, we can charge them the same amount as the kids that just got the $10,000 of relief. Isn't that awesome? We're not fixing the problem, right?
Yeah, the colleges make the money. The banks make the money.
Yeah.
The taxpayers, that some of them that didn't even go to college, they're paying back some of the stuff now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the closest example I have to it as well is, so my sister, for one of her further education, I guess, degrees that she was working on, she didn't complete by her own choice. She didn't at any point when she pulled out those student loans while she was using that money thought that she was ever going to get out of debt, just because she knew what she was getting herself into with that degree. She didn't expect any handouts. She didn't. And she took that debt on by herself. It's not like mom and dad helped her with it or something like that. That was something she solely took on by herself. And it was in the medical degree, so it wasn't a cheap degree either. But she's, I guess, at the time, is in the program that if she continues to work for a non-for-profit in her degree, that she only has to pay, I think, the 8 years of her loan. And then they forgive everything after that. But you have to pay the base minimum payment per month to qualify for a straight 8 years. And then they forgive everything after that. At least that's fair enough that, like, they're getting the interest rate out of her. She's paying for a solid 8 years on it. She can continue to pay it off sooner if she wants to, just to help herself out. If she could pay it off sooner, awesome. It kind of motivated her to, like, if I can get rid of this sooner, or at least keep paying on it until 8 years, at least then I'm getting some kind of a break. But I find just giving away $10,000, that's doing what for whose debt, to be honest? Like,
Almost
unless you're
nothing.
sitting
It's just
on
enabling.
less,
It's
unless you're sitting on less than $10,000, is that really going to give you a break? Is it really going to do much for you? So it's not even really
it's
worth
really
it.
it's buying votes. I mean, they're just buying votes.
Yeah.
With the dumbed down average college student at a super high liberal college establishment.
It's expanding dependence.
They're expanding dependence on the government and buying their votes for them.
Yeah.
Well, when you give out $10,000 to people that aren't you, what do you say? Well, where's mine? Where's my 10K?
I mean, yeah.
You know, that's what people normally run to. It's like, well, me and Casey drove hour and a half each way to school. Me and Casey paid out of pocket. Me and Casey, where's our 10 grand? But if we all said that, what would happen?
Yeah, people, I've already
government
seen
more
people
power.
asking about it.
Government's got more power. The dollar's worth less, dramatically less.
More taxes.
They actually said they were going to tax these $10,000
Yeah.
that kids are going to receive.
Yeah.
It's like, but it kind of reminds me when you go back to the pandemic, they're like, well, we're here to save you. You know, we got 2 years of this lockdown. We're going to give you $1,000. We're going to give you $2,000, right? And it's like, but all the stores that you want to pay that money at, we're going to close those.
Yeah.
We're going to give them to Amazon. We're going to give them to Google. We're going to give them to
all the companies that we're already in bed with are going to solely profit off of this. I mean, let's talk about how home improvement stores didn't close one damn day during a pandemic.
Right.
Anyone else got questions on how that didn't work out? Like, nobody got sick in a Home Depot. No pandemics broke out in a Lowe's that I knew of. And
Walmart.
Across the street from the shop, we have a Lowe's. The amount of people without masks, even during lockdown, that was cycling through that thing.
Bro,
I mean,
half those
on.
people don't even know what a mask is.
Exactly. A lot of them didn't even know there was probably a pandemic going on. They were probably like, oh,
They're working and they don't even know what day it is.
Exactly.
What's your?
It's like the same thing I see with, and I see a lot of people that do posts and pictures, and I see it in the grocery store almost every dang time we go in there. There is an individual or a group of people who you look in their grocery cart and it's full of sodas, full of sugar, full of candies, full of junk. Everything is just the worst that you could put in your body. Mm-hmm. And then when they give them the grand total, because the carts are overflowing, when they give them the grand total, they whip out the old
food stamp
card, or I don't know what it's called now.
EDT
or something.
Yeah, they make it.
Yeah, and they pull out this nice little free credit card, and they just swipe it and go and get all this nasty junk to put in their body, and then that's paid by other taxpayers. And then when they get sick and unhealthy from all this junk they're eating, they're able to go to the hospitals for free and get free treatment.
So what you're saying
from
is
the
that
taxpayer dollar,
we're giving people that make poor decisions unlimited money.
Pretty much.
Incentive to make poor decisions and get unlimited funding for it. As Biden's handing out the drug crack pipes for the drug addicts and stuff like that.
Drug kits.
Yeah, drug kits is what they call them. So it's easier for them to do the drugs and cleaner to do the drugs while they're doing them on the street and ruining themselves.
Yeah, we need y'all.
Yeah,
we need y'all to
it's incentive to do bad to yourself.
So when we talk about $10,000, we're not talking about $10,000 because they would accept it.
No, that's
or creating a life of dependency where it's like we're not saying how can we lessen government. We're asking ourselves how can we expand government so we can keep getting stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people they can get on the government the better, the bigger the government and their plan is going to be. The average young person who hasn't worked or done anything and has got a debt, has had everything handed to him, is like, well, we can get more of this for free? Well, yeah, sure, we'll go along with your little plan.
Well, this is also something that kind of branches into the 10,000 is also you have to look at the degrees that have the student debt still is a system that works within the system, like medical degrees. You're constantly just in that own system of itself that created itself versus like Casey was saying before we went live, when you look at some of these, I guess we call them trade schools, trade certificates, all that kind of stuff. I mean, my whole career is based on certificates. I'm not even going to lie. Besides a base degree of understanding the human body, everything's built on certificates, and no one glorifies them. No one thinks they're credible or have that backing, but they're the foundation of literally every job out there. Welders, construction guys, what are some of the other trade schools? Automotive, all that kind of stuff is a foundation for literally everything that works out there, but we're not putting any emphasis, protection, care. But not only that, those schools aren't cheap. Like getting a trade school degree or a trade school certificate is also not cheap as well, but those degrees pay themselves off, and they even advertise within a year you can pay off your school for the degree that you got from us.
Well, what's the real goal then? The real goal is to make sure we get somebody that we get hooked. They get hooked on a dream that they don't have. They get enthralled with that. There's no job promised after. So when you go to tell somebody, hey, go to a trade school, they'll teach you. Then there's a electrician's program right after. You can start getting paid. You're following somebody. You'll pay it off in a year with no bondage. But right now it's like, all right, well, you got to stack that $250,000 debt on high. Right. We're going to give you back $10,000.
I think that's a generational thing, though. I don't know if Blake, I don't know if you boys had this kind of pressure. I know I did growing up that you had to get a degree. You were not going to be anyone if you didn't have a degree. And it didn't matter what the degree was in. At the time when I was going to school, you could get a degree in general studies. So
like a key to a bunch of doors.
Yeah, but all it was just the foundation of everything. Foundation of like learning finances, foundation of taxes, foundation of business stuff, foundation. It was just enough that if you went and did anything, you could be competitive with everyone kind of thing. You can learn in the field.
Right.
And then they took that degree away because we need more money. And the only way we do that is we force everyone into specifics. And the only way we do that is to take away what the foundation of this world is on general studies and just knowing the basics of everything. Right. So, but when we were growing up, I think that was generational. I mean, there was a lot of pressure for you to get a degree out of high school. I took a time off because I enjoyed working, and college for me at the time wasn't my thing, as I said. And I enjoyed working. I got a lot of experience. I felt like by the time then I went to college, I was more grounded, more understanding of the knowledge and just the value I was getting out of my classes at that time. But that might also be just why school has gotten so much more expensive and so much emphasized. There's a lot of pressure. You're going to go to high school, then you're going to go to college, and then you're going to get a job. Period.
You retire, and then you're going to
retire
have kids,
at 65,
married, die.
And that's it. Like that was the life that was expected. So I think it's a lot of the generation that was,
Yeah, now girls upload a 15-second TikTok and get paid $100,000.
I know. God.
And then you're like, and then everything
naked.
Just explodes. It's all worthless.
Naked on social media.
I know.
So you hear the story and the history on, okay, at a certain period of time, your grandparents had to pay for basically everything in cash, right? Aside from their home, because it was such a large sum of money, right? And usually, I think our grandparents didn't even pay an institution the first time that they paid it off. They paid an individual for their home. And we get the introduction of the credit card, right? And then we have massive student loans, and you have car loans that are now like 5 to 7 years, maybe even longer now. And in some parts of the country, you have home loans that stretch out to 50 years. And we've progressed and we've rewarded people. All these tools are good in the right hands, right? But if we continue to encourage irresponsibility, we've moved to the point where we're relieving debt at a federal level. What is the next step to bankrupting the whole nation of America? We think that it can't go to a drastic scale, but we let 2008 happen.
Right.
And it wasn't irresponsible teens. It was people that had the facts and had plenty of time to figure out what was going on, but it was about greed once again. So I just don't know what would be something else that they may do. I don't know. If we go into a housing situation like we did in 2008, are they going to start relieving house loans or a percentage of house loans? Completely bankrupt the federal government as we know it?
Just the destruction of the dollar is basically what the U.S. government's goal is, destruction of the U.S. dollar. Once it doesn't have any value, people have to figure out different ways to conduct their whole daily life. And I think that's whenever there's destruction of that, right? Destruction of the value of the dollar, it's like all these handouts, all the money that people end up spending go to these people that have all the money to buy those things for cheap, right? Like when we run into 2008, we got people sitting on several $100 billion, and then someone says, well, I can't pay my mortgage, and they go, okay, well, we're here. Or when there's like I said, when there's a bailout, or there's $10,000 or there's $2,000, who's going to win? The people that pay the politicians, And so that's something that also should be taken into account when you're voting for somebody, because people are thinking about how they're going to they're going to get paid, and most of the time it's going to line up with.
Everything's about how they're going to get the dollar out of you. So
Right.
you just got to align yourself with someone that you're okay giving your dollar to.
Right.
At the end of the day. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. If who you're voting for is whose money you're putting in pockets, you know, who's your money, who you're putting in the pockets of. So it's a silly game.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really frustrating that that's what the world's come to. That everything just comes down to how do we get a dollar out of the American people? How do we get 50 more cents out of them? How do we force them to work even more so we can get even more out of them?
How do we
at the end of
equip
the day?
87,000 IRS agents
Oh.
to squeeze people for more?
Well, think about someone's
now let's
normal.
recover like over $3 million a year, $1 billion a year in salary for all those IRS people now too. Where do you think that money's coming from? Your paycheck. That's where it's coming from.
No, our
Yeah.
paychecks is gone
Not
20
ours,
years ago.
But I mean, like, no, I'm not even getting. Come on, we're not even getting Social Security
Yeah.
at this point.
It's just it feels like there's a lot of things that need to be restructured, but I don't know how.
It's just people finally saying no. It's finally people just removing themselves from, I guess, the need to the next step, the need to be this rich, the need to be in this house, the need to be in this car, the need to be at this place, the need to buy this coffee, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the moment you start living the way you just are comfortable with living instead of what you think you need to live,
Yeah.
everything else is no longer a demand. Everything else all the big corporations start dying because you don't need them anymore. You're not constantly being fed
Yeah,
bull
well,
crap.
Well, you drive through a neighborhood and the houses are worth $150K and they're all
Yeah.
pillboxes. Everyone's got a Lexus or a Jeep on the street,
Yeah.
and then
I
they
can't
got the
afford-
brand new iPhone. They got the job that just is enough to pay for it,
Yeah.
and it's like, but then it creates a stumbling block. I go through that neighborhood if I'm not thinking like, because people say, "Man, I wish I had that," and then they go and figure out how they can have that, and by the end, they owe 10 people money every month.
And they're really not that happy.
Right, and they're not that happy, and
Yeah.
then we create an environment where it's like, well, you should start changing it now. It'll take you 10 years to fix it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then people, end up saying, well, thank God the government will give me something to. I'm like, you signed on that dotted line, bro. Live with it.
And I feel like when it comes to all this, since we touched base on it, when the dollar collapses, is I've been hearing and seeing more people thinking that like if they do have debt or if they don't have enough money in the bank or something, it kind of like just wipes it all clean. I don't think people understand. No, they'll still come for whatever they can get from you. And that
Right.
means a car, property, whatever they can get. You still have a debt and they'll get it from you. They don't care how and in what form they can. And I don't think enough people are talking about that. The collapse of a dollar is never going to be a good thing for
Well,
anybody.
We looked at Venezuela. I mean, like my dad was saying, when I watched videos, he's like, oh, you want to get a hot dog here at this hot dog stand? It's like, yeah, well, it'd take about 6 months of your wages to get a hot dog here. Or if you want to get toilet paper, it'd take you 2 years of your wages to get a thing of toilet paper at the store. And then at the same time also, when my dad was over there in Venezuela, they said, okay, we got to leave all the equipment over there because the government was just rolling up to people's land and saying, oh, we own this.
Yeah.
We own this.
Yeah.
And you have you don't have any money.
And you think
Can't buy anything.
we don't have a national currency that our government's not going to come for anything they can to settle your debt? Oh, they will. They'll
Well-
come for whatever they can. They'll take it from right underneath you.